Welcome back to the Dual Comm Podcast, episode 11. Epos, how are you doing? Welcome to June. Can you believe, by the way, we are halfway through this year?
Dude, time makes no sense. It was just January. In fact, one of the subjects we're talking about, we were just talking about in January and waiting for it to happen. I don't understand, but I'm really happy to be here. It's been a very weird month so far.
Yeah, this year has been a weird year so far, and I always feel like this happens. You get to May, and then like the best months of the year are right now until I think like November-ish, and it goes so fast. So it's like I have on my whiteboard here in the office, like, hey, it's halfway through the year. And then I wrote under it's like, how's your backlog going? And it's horrible. All of the game plans that I had, all of the things that I was trying to do, it's just, but I don't care. You know, first few months of the year, I was pretty strategic, but right now, just playing when I can. Oh, before we get into anything else, can we talk about Haste, dude?
Yes.
Oh,
I will always talk about Haste. Did you
this
beat it
game's
yet?
amazing.
Did you beat it yet?
No. Oh, sorry. I talked right over you.
No,
I failed shard 6 or 7 last night.
Yes.
And
that one
I was so mad.
That one I took 3 days to beat.
Okay.
Like three days of playing. Like sat there and, sat down for a session, lost, eventually had to give up, sat back down, lost, eventually had to give up. Like it was hard.
It's kind of the ultimate comfort game because I've had a bunch of days this week where I don't have time to game except for, no joke, 20 minutes. And that game is so easy to go, yeah, I'll boot that up. Because its gameplay, actually, it fits in my realm of like a session game. Mm-hmm. Easy to pick up, easy to play forever, and like no real story elements that get in the way. But it's a total comfort game now. That thing is something I'm going to play forever at this point. It's like a Skate or a Tony Hawk or something. It's just such a cool little gameplay.
That is... Go ahead.
No, that's it. Yeah. What do you think of it, man? You wrapped it up fast.
Yeah, I picked it up. I picked up the demo and like beat it. It was like 20 minutes long. I beat it and immediately was like, all right, I'm buying this game. I have to play more. And my plan was to play it a little bit on the computer and then switch over to Steam Deck because it's like the perfect session Steam Deck game. I was like, this is going to be great. I can relax. I can even play it in bed. Like, it's going to be awesome. And instead, I just couldn't put it down. And so played it for like a week straight off and on. And eventually I ended up playing it because I just couldn't resist trying to clear some more shards. I ended up playing in front of my kiddo and he was just glued to it. He was like, what is this game? And I ended up passing the controller to him and putting him in the easy mode, endless mode. And he kind of got the hang of it after a little bit. I was very impressed. But it's just, like you said, it is, whether you are glued in because you're just hooked on the gameplay, or once it becomes second nature, you can just kind of like dissociate a bit and just watch the waves and just be like, all right, man, nothing else matters right now. My character's going up and she's going down and she's going up and back down. And just like, it's so hard to describe without playing it because it is just so intuitive after a certain point. Like obviously there's challenges to the level structure and the bosses, but like the core, what you're sitting down to do, like feels natural. Like you're like, okay, going up this hill. Now I got to come back down on the hill so I don't break my legs. All right, I'm going to keep going. Like it's just so satisfying.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. There's like nothing I would change with that game. The music's really good too.
The music is insane.
You can also, it's one of those games you can turn off the music and play your own mixes, and it's just incredible. So I will say, the Steam Summer Sale is starting on June 26th. So that's 13 days from recording. When this goes live, that'll be like 10 days. So wish list this game, support it. It is a 10 out of 10. Like you were saying, this might be your game of the year, right?
It still currently is my game of the year.
Nice.
Like I said, I beat it within like a week. The story gets real. The story stays out of your way for most of the game. And then in the last few shards, it really ramps up. And something about it, not going to spoil right now, it just really spoke to me and like made me tear up.
I like that.
There's so much depth to it. Like at first you can go through most of the shards and just kind of do whatever. You don't got to worry too much about the upgrades or whatever, but then you really got to start planning kind of a build of like what you're going to focus on, because if you don't have enough boost, like early on, you just got to focus on health, because if you take damage, you're screwed and you don't want to lose your lives. But then later on, if you don't have enough boost, you're not keeping up with the collapse in the first place. So it doesn't matter if you're not taking damage. you're not going to make it to the end of the level. And so you got to really start planning your build. And there's a ton of items to unlock. And then there's stuff you can buy in the little hub area that, frankly, I haven't even touched most of. And so I'm excited to jump back into endless mode and just like start unlocking all the cool stuff and see how far I can take it. It's kind of like Vampire Survivors, where you can get through the first waves or whatever with basics, but then when you see someone else's video of like the whole screen is just chaos, you're like, how do I get there? It's kind of like that once you start flying through the levels. And it's something I want to note, I think, especially for you, since you don't jive with roguelikes as much, the fact that it's still a kind of packaged, concise story game with roguelike like mechanisms makes it a lot more enjoyable. Like, a lot of roguelikes in this way have a story, but like, it took me 8.5 hours to beat the game. That time put into Hades or other roguelites, I've barely touched the story. I've barely seen any of the game, nevertheless beaten it. But by being able to like play through the story and get the whole package, I'm going to stick around a little bit more, because every time I boot it up, I'm not going to forget where I was in the story and what was going on.
Yeah, and they just added disaster mode too, so I don't know if you've got to try this.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it's a new update. They put out maybe last week, basically. And essentially, it's the most intense version of Haste yet. There's 4 distinct levels of difficulty applied to the final shard. It adds dynamic obstacles like burning lava flowers and more, and new effects to increase the difficulty. You have to have completed the final shard in order to unlock the first level of disaster mode, and then you unlock each one by completing the previous one. So it's apparently like
that's
pretty darn awesome. So yeah, I'm 3.5 hours into it, and it's been okay. I died on Shard 7 last night. That's where I died.
Yes, okay. That is the one that it stopped me for like half of my time. It was
snake,
rough.
Dude. I struggled with this snake a lot, but it was pretty fun.
You know what's funny? The snake.
Yeah.
The snake was my hardest boss until I really figured out how to do it. The first one you encounter, the one in the demo, the jumper. This is going to sound stupid. I had obviously it's in the name, but I never actually saw it jump the first 3 times I beat it in the demo, the first level and the second time you fight him, because I just kind of inherently always was in the air when I got to him. And then on the last encounter with him, where he's like extra hard, it was only at that point that I was like, maybe I should just try running up to him. And then he jumped away, and I was just like, wait a minute. Like, I'd never actually triggered his little mechanic because I had always flown at him.
Yeah, I same thing. When I was trying last night, I took too long. I'm like, I'll just go around all the lava, and then he jumped away, and I'm like, I suck.
Yep. I was like, I had no idea he did that. Obviously, it's in the name. Obviously, that's what he does, but like, I'd never tried it before.
Yep. Well, we had some news. You and I had talked about the rumored Xbox handheld on this show previously. Like, hey, what if they come out with something that supports Game Pass? Well, sure enough, it's not the first party one. Apparently, like, the news broke this morning that the first party handheld they were developing that has been canceled. Rumors, of course. But they announced the partnership with Asus. So there's the ROG Xbox Ally X and the ROG Xbox Ally coming holiday 2025. 2 SKUs of a Z2A processor, I think. So the AMD architecture, right, for both of these things.
Yeah.
And the X gets the AI Z2 Extreme processor. New handheld, man. New handheld where they're competing, I guess, with, or trying to compete with Steam Deck, but it's really just an Asus ROG, right?
Yeah. So I'm in 2 very weird minds about this because, one, yeah, we've been talking about this basically for the entire life of the show. They were supposedly going to reveal this exact device at CES in January.
Yeah.
Like, we were even talking about, like, hey, we can't wait to see it. It's supposed to be showing up. And then they just held on to it.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Oh my God.
And so it is interesting to see how many people are like surprised and shocked to hear about this, because for those of us who like stay in the weeds of the gaming news, it's like we've known Asus and this happening like for months now. But for people who are not as tuned in, it's still this big surprise reveal. I'm excited because more competition in the space is a good thing, and I think this handheld market is making major shifts to the gaming landscape in many ways that we will talk about. It's this weird position of like, I kind of want one, and that makes me mad.
Yeah, they're kind of cool.
I don't feel, yeah, like the controller side handles make it bigger, but like it seems like it'll make it a lot more comfortable, and it is a significant spec upgrade over, say, my base Steam Deck. I don't feel like I've gotten the time put in yet on my Steam Deck to justify buying anything else. And I've still got all those upgrades I was going to do for my Steam Deck, like in terms of like the aesthetics. But like, this is a beefy spec upgrade and seems like a nice system. Personally, I don't see myself using the Xbox UI for it. I would put SteamOS on it and use it as a Steam Deck. I see what they're going for, though.
Yeah, so as somebody who hasn't stepped into this world, but I am definitely on the sidelines thinking about one of these handhelds at some point in the next few years. It's a Windows 11 OS system, right? Yes, Xbox is now trying to create some sort of UI elements and a user experience that will make it a little bit easier to handle rather than just trying to click the start bar and navigating a mouse with these controller sticks, right? And I think there is a lot of potential with Game Pass, but I don't see Xbox actually making a user experience that lives up to the expectations, right? Steam has done a phenomenal job with the Steam Deck, right? Building an ecosystem that's very easy to enjoy on the handheld side. We're really going to have to see how much effort Xbox puts into this experience because, like, to me, this feels like a testing ground for a big picture mode style thing, but for Game Pass that they could then move to like a Steam OS or something like that. That's more what I see being the realistic pattern because in a video this week, I talked about it, took one of my older processors and GPUs and looked at prices on the used market and essentially reused parts from an old build to make a TV PC. And I've been playing that the last few weeks. And it's kind of shocking that the Game Pass or the Xbox app on PC doesn't have a big picture mode that's easy to navigate with a controller because the library is pretty darn impressive. And the more first party titles that they land, like the Expedition, well, I guess it's not even first party, but with the games like Expedition 33 that they land, the more people want to play experiences like that on the handheld. So I do think it's a little Xboxy to include two different SKUs for it. And I think like the cool fancy triggers, like the rumble triggers are only on the X version. And so just a few little funky nudges. I don't know if that's the full case, but pretty sick screen, 120 hertz, FreeSync. I think it's an IPS panel, so it's not OLED on either one. And it's the same panel on both of the units. So where are handhelds at, Epos? This is your bread and butter, Mr. Tech. Like I'm looking at all this going, when do you jump in? What do you get?
So that's the frustrating part of this being like such a young market is you kind of just have to find what appeals most to you and jump in because there is going to be a new one every 6 months. And you are going to feel like you do not have the latest and greatest thing. And you're going to have to live with that. Everyone who got the first Steam Deck and then they were like, yeah, we're not going to do another one for a long time. And then they're like, but OLED. And you can't upgrade your current Steam Deck with the OLED screen. We're all just like, what the hell, man?
Oh, man.
So you kind of just got to pick it and go with it and just remember the good old Game Boy and Nintendo DS and PSP days where it's like you had what you had and you used it until it got stolen or smashed. And that's how it is. It is, like you said, it is very Xboxy to have two SKUs. That makes no sense to me. It's already an upgraded SKU over the non-Xbox ROG Ally. Like that already exists. Like, why do we need two of them? That just creates... it's so weird to be in this point with consoles where, like, you want consoles to be as simple and like easy as possible because you're selling them to parents and to people who aren't techies and stuff. And Xbox out of the gate with this generation has been, all right, we're going to have two and they're going to be completely different. And you're going to be real confused as to which one you want. And now they're doing this with the handheld. It's just a little weird in terms of where they're at. Like, these are wonderful machines. We have to understand that they are not next-gen consoles. They are handhelds. And I think we had just enough time away from handhelds being the dominating like console. Like used to Game Boys, DSs, PSPs were everywhere. We got away from that a little bit. And now I think it's too easy for people to forget that they never ran amazing like top tier graphics games and stuff And even you look at the Switch, like the Switch in handheld mode has never been that impressive. But you pick up a Steam Deck, you pick up the ROG Ally, and you have access to play anything. Literally play anything. You can play PC games from the dawn of time until now. You can play console games through emulators. You can install the Game Pass app. You can install Epic Launcher. You can install GOG. You can install whatever. And you can play all of these games with varying degrees of performance. If you're playing a big Elden Ring or Witcher or Cyberpunk or probably Expedition 33, you're going to have to really crank down the graphics, probably settle for 30 frames per second sometimes, and understand that you're playing a handheld.
144p rendering with DLSS, right?
Yes. But also it's a small screen and those details. Like I have found myself not caring that games weren't running super high fidelity on there. Now, granted, the big blockbuster games that I want to see that way, I'm going to play on a console or on a bigger PC on a fancy screen.
Yes.
A big OLED or whatever. But like you start, there are people, I'm not going to pretend they don't exist, but like there are people who the Steam Deck or the handheld is their main gaming system or their only gaming system. And that's fine. But realistically, it is an accessory.
Yeah,
it
like
is
a companion device.
Yes, it is the pairing to your gaming PC. And in that way, you can balance what you play between them. When you're on the go or sitting on the couch or outside or whatever, you can play the smaller games and you can play the bigger stuff on your actual PC. And you then have the capacity to stream those bigger games from your PC to the handheld, where then it can render at those higher settings, which is really cool.
It is. Yeah. And continue. Go for it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, there's a ton of potential, but it is kind of a messy space because we haven't had the like consoleized version. The Steam Deck started that trend, and it is great, but it is inherently a little questionable to some people because it's running Linux and you have to deal with the compatibility layer. And like as a user, you don't have to really think about any of this. But if you go in expecting it to just run literally anything out of the box and not have to at least think about it or like look at whether it's rated appropriately or whatever, or check ProtonDB, like there is a barrier to entry that not everyone appreciates. But then something like the Xbox One, theoretically being Windows based, if they get it cleaned up so that it can perform well, is going to remove that barrier so that at least if you know how to run Windows programs, you can run it.
Yeah. So it's just FOMO. There's more ways to play than ever before. These devices are ultra capable, and I get that FOMO because you don't want to buy the wrong one. Like you said, how many people bought the Steam Deck, then saw the OLED one come out and went, dang, I would have 100% waited and picked this thing up. And I think that's all I'm just trying to wrap my head around is, would I use this thing? How would I use something like this? And when is the right time to step into it? And I do think at some point, something like this makes a ton of sense. I may ultimately succumb to like the Nintendo way at some point if Switch 2 gets a discount or an OLED, only because they're going to do some killer app that I'm going to want, like a Zelda game or whatever. And really not happy with their strategies and a lot of their moves lately. But ultimately, it's one of those things where the PC handheld market is changing the way that we game. Why don't we transition to the Steam Next Fest discussion, even though it's pretty much ending the day that this podcast goes out, because I want to talk about a few of the demos that we enjoyed that are probably going to continue past the Next Fest, and then just pitch something, because I do believe these PC handhelds like the Steam Deck are giving an absolute renaissance to lightweight indie games and really probably giving more momentum and opportunities than ever before. It's like a new wave of like DS or GBA games, but done with modern flair. And sure, you can play it on your desktop, but example, Shovel Knight, the developers behind Shovel Knight are making their new title, Mina the Hollower, which comes out, I think, in October, like the end of October this year. It's got a demo on Steam Next Fest. Looks like an SNES or an NES game. Just gorgeous art style. It's gonna be amazing. If you've ever played Shovel Knight, you know their gameplay is just fantastic. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, that's a game that is so good and fun, and all I'm thinking is like, this is a perfect Steam Deck game. Like all of these lightweight indies seem to be absolutely perfect for some form of PC handheld or like a Switch or something like that. So what have you been playing on Next Fest so far? What have you liked, and what do you want to talk about?
I have been playing some weird ones. I played Ragebound. I only played a little bit because I knew like I would just get hooked. So this is my issue with demos. Is if I
you're
really
gonna say
like
the same
a game,
thing I'm thinking, dude. Oh, I can't wait.
If I really like a game, I'm putting the demo down immediately.
Yeah.
I'm not finishing it because I don't want to sink my time into the demo and burn me for the real game. I just want the full game. And so Ninja Gaiden, Void Breaker, Morbid Metal, all three of those I picked up and was like, this is incredible. I have to stop playing now because I still want to play the game.
I fully get it. I stopped after the first level of Ragebound because I'm like, I don't need to experience anymore. I click add to wish list. I close the game because I just want to experience it in the context of the game. It was that good. But I love that with demos. Sometimes, like with Haste, you brought up the demo for Haste. I tried that before buying it. I played about 90 seconds of the tutorial, closed the game, bought the game, bought the full version because I knew, I'm like, yep. This is it. And so it just goes to show you can watch as much as you want about games or listen or hear about it, but the unique element of this medium is playing it and feeling how it plays. So did you get a chance to try Dead as Disco?
I didn't. I have it downloaded and I've been looking at it. It looks freaking incredible. It is like my dream beat 'em up game. And
I don't
get
know
what you're
how
saying,
they license some of the music too, by the way.
Yeah.
They've got some really good licensed songs in there.
And you were dead on that. It looks like a PS Vita game. Like, not graphically, I'm not insulting it, but like in terms of gameplay mechanics, it looks like Guitaroo Man or something, where like you have the rhythmic like combos and this like smaller scale beat 'em up. Like it is that perfect, like I will 100% be playing this on my Steam Deck. It is that ideal scenario. And so it looks addictive as can be.
It's wonderful. It's Hi-Fi Rush with a little bit like sharper edge to it and kind of that Persona 5 comic book art style with a little cyberpunk flair. It's really, really fun. I encourage everybody to check that out. And then Void Breaker. This was not on my radar at all. A first-person shooter roguelite made by one developer. And I want to ask you, I threw it in Discord earlier this week, is this not exactly what Bungie's new Marathon should have been?
Yes, it is. Even like every element of it, visually, stylistically, gameplay wise, and even just the overall themes of like the corrupted, like I don't even know how to describe it, but like it reminded me entirely of all of Bungie's ARGs for like their game teases and everything. Like this felt like exactly what I'd expect those little Guilty Spark teasers to lead to and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Visually, it has a little bit of that, like, I don't know. I didn't even check the engine it's running, but it feels like some of those like stock UE5 asset kind of things.
Overly busy. Yeah.
But it is gorgeous. The theming is sick. It's got some mystery to it with the story that you're going to figure out through the course of obviously a roguelite. So lots of repetitive stuff there, but like, the production value is top notch for something that was made by supposedly one person or like a tiny team. And it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I was super addicted to the combat, like getting the staggers going. Staggers in a roguelike is so cool. Like getting the stagger system going and then trying to get headshots and getting the upgrades and stuff. Like I was hooked. That is the one I probably spent the most time in for the demo because I knew I was going to play it, but I also like couldn't put it down.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I still didn't finish the demo, but I played through a few rounds before I was like, okay, I really need to put it down now, so I play the game. But I was just like, I don't want to stop. There was another similar one, both similar like stylistically and aesthetically, called Morbid Metal. That's actually apparently an Ubisoft published game, but it's another roguelike, but it's got more of that Neo style combat. So you're a slower kind of hacky slash thing, and you have this shape shifting ability where you pick up different fighting styles from different robot guys, and then you can shift between them, and it's just like completely changes the game. And that is really cool. I've not played a roguelike where you can get to completely change how you play like as you're playing. So that was pretty sick.
It's got the whole bullet jump mechanic from Warframe as well. And so it's like Dark Souls Neo Warframe.
Yeah.
And really cool.
Yeah,
I'm a little...
I will say...
Oh, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, as a demo, I was the most frustrated by it because it opens up telling you how to move and aim and look, and that just always... Void Breaker did that a little bit, but like it at least gave you some of the oomph to it first, whereas I loaded up Morbid Metal, and it's like, all right, learn to walk. And I'm like, come on, I know how to play games. I want to see what your game has to offer.
Yeah, I've played over the last few weeks probably 20 different demos, and I have closed a lot of games that just start with text-heavy tutorials where you have to read and learn, and I just don't. I'm impatient right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to describe it as that. I don't have a whole lot of time, and so if you're having me read a wall of text to just get started, like, I'm not interested. I'm not saying it's bad, and of course, when you're building a demo SKU, you don't necessarily have the time to build a really good immersive, like, solid tutorial, but it turn me off big time to a demo where you're like, I'm done. I don't, the same thing.
Same.
Voidbreaker, I almost dropped because the intro section was a little boring, but as soon as you get into your first run, you're like, okay, that was great. What's Mighty 1990?
So this is a crazy game. It is like a combination of a point-and-click adventure and a text-based RPG from back in the day. You don't actually point-and-click, but like you are... I haven't figured out the story yet. You get to pick your character. It's very fourth wall breaky. You get to pick your character name and age and things like that. You play as this middle-aged guy with a beer belly who I guess is trying to figure out why everything went wrong after the year 1990. And then you're sent back in time into like the lives of different people in 1990. And you got to figure out how to navigate it. So it's like, okay, you're going to be sent back. You have to call Phil. And you're like, who the hell is Phil? And then you're transported back in time. And then you use you can either use letter controls like old school style or click on the menu at the bottom to be like, all right, I want to move to another room. I want to interact with this. I want to interact with this. And like, it's like, okay, you need to call Phil. Okay, go into the kitchen. Your mom's on the phone. Use phone. You do not want to take that phone from your mom. Talk to mom. I'm on the phone. And then she starts talking like, he's 44 and he still lives at home. He really needs to move out. And like, I haven't figured out what the gameplay is yet, but it just has so much charm. The music is incredible. And it's just like, people don't make games like this anymore. And so I'm picking it up like right away just because it's something completely unique these days.
Another one looking at the gameplay that just seems like it's built for a Steam Deck. It's built for a handheld.
Yes.
Like this would be an absolutely amazing play on the couch or in bed, before hitting the hay. And then I haven't tried it. I've had it installed for a long time. Desktop Survivors 98 looks incredible.
Dude.
Did you play it?
Yes. So that is one where I had the demo installed. I launched the demo and then proceeded to uninstall the demo and just buy the game.
Yeah.
But it basically creates like old school Windows 98 and Windows XP style desktops and turns it into like Vampire Survivors. And it is just super bananas. It's a lot of fun. I haven't put a ton of time into it yet, but it's one of those like I want to sit down and just like blinders on, just do nothing but that for a few hours. Because I don't know if you remember my obsession with Vampire Survivors, but I was very, very late to the game. And then I spent like 3 months doing nothing but playing that. There was one more I wanted to mention that was straight up like, it looks so much like a Game Boy game that they even have an option to play it with a Game Boy Advance overlay, like on the sides of it. Pipistello and the Cursed Yo-Yo. It is what they're calling a Yo-Yo-vania, but a 2D top-down kind of Metroidvania where you have a yo-yo as your primary weapon, and you can run around, roll on it, throw it at people. It's got kind of bullet helly boss battles at certain points. It is a lot of fun.
Amazing.
I played a little bit of the
came
demo,
out.
and it is just so good. And like I said, it is another one that is clearly just a handheld game made for that. And you can play it on your PC. And a lot of these I will play a little bit on your PC. But you're 100% right. Like we are getting... The Steam Deck basically kind of... I'm not going to say created the market, but kind of reinvigorated or re-tapped into that market of players that want these smaller handheld experiences. And if you remember our talk about the potential, the supposed other PlayStation handheld that Sony is working on, I mentioned that like I really enjoyed those companion games for the PSP and the Vita that came with games like God of War or Gravity Rush, or I mentioned Get-A-Roo Man, like those smaller scale package but still complete versions of these games. I want that. I don't want to just play God of War 2018 or whatever year it was or Horizon Zero Dawn on a handheld. Like to me, that's not super appealing. I want an experience that's catered to that. And in the indie scene, we are getting so much of that right now.
It's so nice. We've talked about it. I've missed it. That's the thing. Like you can go and buy a old 3DS or 2DS right now, and it's a phenomenal handheld. Same thing like a PSP. Those old games were built with the mobile environment in mind. And I was just trying to think of a metaphor or some way to compare it. If you sit down to watch like a cinema experience like Interstellar or some other like pretty heavy narrative film, right? Nobody wants to like sit down and do that every single day as like their only viewing experience. You need TV shows to break it up. And like, I love the show Survivor. And so the way I think about it is I can't sit down and watch Interstellar style experiences all the time. Those are the ones where you like plan for it. You turn the lights down, you make the popcorn. But then there's times where you're like, I just want to watch a new episode of whatever, like your show might be. I love The Price is Right also. And so like I have 100 years old, I know. But like The Price is Right is that easier, low. I can hook in for 10 minutes, get, you know, the experience, see somebody win some money on Plinko and call it a day, right? And we had this little window where, especially like Sony, every single title is The Last of Us style. And it's like very fatiguing. They're incredible games, but they burn me out. I'm noticing like my backlog. I finished Expedition 33 a few weeks ago. It's my game of the year. It's incredible. It's so good. I don't need to talk about it anymore, but it was so heavy and wonderful that I have zero interest in picking up a big narrative story game because I know A, it won't probably compare, and B, I need a game. I need something that's not going to consume me. And looking at all of these titles that I'm just wish listing, I love it. This is like a new renaissance for games that live up to kind of what Sean Layden has talked about, the AA experience, or, you know, that indie experience where we need more of crazy, cool, experimental ideas. And I'm just excited. This was a very cool Next Fest. I'll say this is the first one I've participated in, and total unsolicited feedback. There are so many games on Steam, just so many games now that are being published. I'm a little surprised at how lacking the amount of curation is in terms of how Steam displays the demos and the way that you can navigate the demos. Like, sure, they've got it sorted by genre, but you really have to navigate through a mountain of junk to find the gems. And I truly thought going into the Next Fest, there was going to be sort of a like our top 10 recommended, or like, here's what our staff is playing and here's what we think you should check out. It really was just like a ton of these demos existed before Next Fest went live. Almost all of them did. Because you and I have been looking at this demo section now since the last show. And I guess I'm a little surprised. I thought for sure there'd be just a few more quality of life features. And then the other thing is, I hope that most of these demos don't disappear after Steam Next Fest, because it seems pretty arbitrary and stupid to take your demos offline when it's just the best way to try before buying, you know?
Yeah, so this has been a pretty big problem. I think Steam relies too much on their like recommendation algorithms at this point. Because I will say, I also noticed the lack of curation, but my little like games that you specifically might like feed were where I got all of my like.
So yours were dialed
so far. Mine
yours
were
were dialed.
I spend a lot of time like liking and unfollow, like doing all the manual curation in Steam. I've done that over the years, and so that probably plays a role into it. But the indie scene itself has really struggled with that curation side on Steam for a very long time, which is why a lot of certain genres kind of do their own. Like there's a few events that happen for like horror games and stuff where they'll do, like there's one that was even called like a big PS1 demo disc where they released a bunch of indie PS1 graphic style horror games all together to like get the curation and people looking at them and stuff. I do feel like Steam needs some degree of a little bit more curation, like a collection of these kinds of games, like beyond just genre, that would make it easier to navigate. Because I ran into the same issue. I ran into plenty of demos that literally just wouldn't work, like in the first place.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to sort through. And I absolutely share the concern about them disappearing, because I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but like I explicitly wanted to sit down and just play through a ton of demos and make a video on it and be like, yo, this is Steam Next Fest. This is awesome. And I didn't get to it in the week. And then like right after the last day, most of them just disappeared from my library. And I'm like, what is the point? How does it hurt you to have a demo up?
Yeah.
Like it only helps. It doesn't hurt. Why would you take them away?
Free marketing. I mean, they probably pay to have it listed, I'm guessing, or there might be some element to it. But yeah, so the reason I brought it up is last time Next Fest, like I noticed it was October of last year, right? And I missed the earlier one this year. But they do a write-up, like a blog post that says the 50 most played demos for the event. And I started clicking through, and most of them, the demos weren't live anymore. And so I'm like, well, what is the point of this article, dude? If I didn't play it, it's just... So I'm in agreement with you. Like, this is a very cool thing, and I'll play it, but I also worry too about a bit of fatigue where when I'm browsing, trying to find the gems, because I didn't have like pretty dialed curation, it would like... Yeah. I don't use like a lot of those Steam features and click thumbs up and all those things too often. And it threw some of the weird, stupid, like the manga novel, smutty games on there. I'm just like,
I got tons of those. And I was just like, I've never clicked on these. I don't have them in my library. Stop it.
I've found a little setting to turn it off because I'm just like, that's a corner of Steam for other people. This is just give me the void breakers, dude. Anyway. It was pretty cool, and if anybody has played some demos that you want to recommend, let us know in the comments down below, because, pretty sick, and
June's a busy month, so it's really hard to, like, actually sit down and play all of these in the week, so any of them that stick around that are worth checking out, I will always check out, because even if it takes me forever to get to a game, if a demo is really enjoyable, and it like sells me on the concept of a game, especially for an indie game, like I will buy it. I will give them the sale. Even if I know I won't play it for a while, I'm like, you earned this, take my money, and I will support this game. And so if there's, obviously we have a very short list here. I downloaded a ton more and just didn't get around to playing them. But if there's anything else that we should be checking out in these kinds of lines, I will happily check it out. I'm going to give a little spicy take. This has been a weird past week or two. I feel like as little as I was able to actually engage with it, Steam Next Fest was a way better experience than Summer Games Fest was.
I didn't even watch. Dude.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch. I'm so over it.
I tuned into like a little bit and watched a little bit after the fact. And there are a few announcements that, I am very excited for. But it seemed like the week on the whole was just like no one was really all that stoked on it. Meanwhile, I just got to download some Steam demos and like found some cool games I'm going to play for a while. That was a great experience.
Yeah, I see this goes back to what we talked about on the December show. More people are watching about games than they're playing. Yeah. But also more people are kind of miserable about the hobby than ever before. And I think it's because you're not actually like getting the opportunity to play as much, experience as much, because you're being told. And like, I enjoy the Game Awards. It's fun to watch, but also I feel like a dried out sponge at the end of every single one of those things, because it's like, I want long. To I know it's hard and I don't want to like armchair criticize, but there's probably one or two games in there that you're excited about, and then it's just a sea of junk. And let's be real, the stuff I did watch for the Summer Games Fest, whatever the main presentation was with Jeff, like 70% of those games are live service forever games that we know will fail. It's so sad watching like all of these studios chase a concept hoping for like, we're free to play, we're live service, we're a forever game, we've got 10-year support. And it's like, well, it's just crap. You're never going to pull a player base, dude. Like most of these games just, we all know it. We're all watching the trailer going like, who plays this, dude? Yeah. Where did they get the $1 million to do this advertisement?
Yeah, it's sad. Like, as much as I've been transparent that I'm not a huge Xbox fan at this point, that Xbox event earlier where they had like all the interviews with the Expedition devs and stuff like that, we need more of that now.
The directs, kind of like a Nintendo Directy style thing, because I don't care if I'm there at the time or not, but I can go back and click through the video, you know?
Yeah. Nintendo Directs, but a little less saturated. Nintendo's kind of gone ham, just like overdoing them lately.
Yeah.
They got a Direct every few weeks, and I'm like, I just can't.
I was going to talk about our free Amazon Prime games because we haven't looked at it in a long time. But to be honest, the only thing I see here that I would recommend is probably Golf with Your Friends is free if you have Amazon Prime, and it's the GOG copy, which is pretty rad.
They've had a few over the past few months that were cool. Oh, you can get Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen 2.
Blood Omen 2 on GOG, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
I My Amazon Prime expires this weekend for the first time in like 10 years. So I will miss these free games, but frankly, I always forgot to redeem like half of them. So
yeah, the last time we did this was Christmas, I think.
yeah, that was their big. Have you? So that was when like GOG basically got like DDoSed by that event. They have actually gone through and fixed their system for this, because I redeemed a month or two ago. They had a bunch of games on Prime again, and I redeemed a few GOG games, and now it will let you redeem the key immediately. And then they're like, okay, we stagger the actual account adding now, so it may not show up right away, but we promise you have it.
Yeah, I remember like clicking and refreshing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think to put a bow on the first half of the show, we saw this last week. Mr. Rebs over on Twitter tweeted out that Microsoft's strategy of releasing Xbox exclusives on PlayStation is paying off. From April 4th until May 3rd, Forza Horizon 5 was the second best-selling game, previously ranked 42, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was the sixth best-selling game, previously ranked 118, and Oblivion Remastered was the best-selling game. And he gives a screenshot here, basically, of April's monthly numbers for the best-selling PlayStation games, or on the PlayStation platform, right? And Microsoft here has 5 games in the top 10. Sony only has 1 of them, which is kind of funny. And I think this brings it back into a discussion thread that you had kind of hinted at. With a boom in PC handhelds, with Xbox now getting involved in the PC handheld market, and their sort of like platform agnostic push to where they're just more and more like play our games anywhere kind of thing, there's this almost quiet push or renaissance. I know I used that word earlier, so I'm sorry, I can't think of a better one, of game preservation in a weird way. Like, is that the way to phrase it?
Obviously, we have longevity concerns still, especially with things going digital. But like, for the first time in a very long time / ever, we're getting every game kind of everywhere. Now, that's not entirely true. Like, Sony games aren't coming to Nintendo anytime soon or whatever. But like, we're seeing the lines between the console walls just completely blurred. And we're seeing the push to get your game everywhere and in so many forms, whether you get demos, whether you rent it through Game Pass or you buy it. You can now play Microsoft games on PS5. I'm going to be buying Gears of War on PS5 in August. Like, that's blowing my mind. We are seeing console generations and console divisions just kind of shrink away. And at first it was kind of bad. Like, at first we felt like the results were not great because we were just it felt like we were getting less for it. It felt like everyone was pretending to be cooperative with each other and then kind of building up walls in different ways. And now it feels like there might be some good coming out of it with regards to us just getting games where we want to play it, how we want to play it. We've got the Xbox handheld coming, and obviously you will be able to play those games on other handhelds if you get the Game Pass stuff set up. You've been able to play Game Pass games on Steam Deck if you knew how to install Windows or set things up properly. Those kinds of things. Like, we might be reaching a point where like the Nintendo Switch is the only walled garden left. And that's kind of weird. I also wanted to point out, this chart is really interesting because I would argue there's actually 6 Microsoft games, because Minecraft is on this list, but specifically it's listed as being published by multiple publishers, even though it's a Microsoft-owned game.
Yeah.
So that's a Microsoft title. And then it's interesting that MLB The Show is number 3, but that's not including digital sales on Nintendo or Xbox. So it's probably much higher if you include those.
Yeah.
But it's a really weird chart. But yeah, like, Oblivion, I feel like, was this weird. Oblivion and Expedition 33 were these weird, huge wins for Xbox.
Yes.
That came out kind of at the same time. And the positioning has really shifted here. Obviously, Indiana Jones is doing great as well. People were wanting that on PS5 from the initial launch, and that has now come to fruition. Like, we are seeing, I think, what people were fighting about 6 years ago when we talked about this, when the Xbox One X or Xbox Series consoles were being announced, where everyone complained that Microsoft was buying up studios and potentially doing worse exclusivity things while saying they were being more free and open, and we weren't getting good games. Microsoft was not really putting out games. And I think they kind of got screwed here in a way because some of their studios have just like struggled to keep up with making any games, like a certain storied franchise that has been with them a long time but was not actually named at the Summer Games Fest event. That
Talking about Halo.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one's kind of, I think they were putting a lot of eggs in that basket that had not panned out, because usually that would be, I don't mean this as an insult, but like the filler game. Like you for a while you could always rely on a new Halo coming out and being a big deal, and then that kind of didn't work. And so it takes this reveals how long it takes the AAA, the console manufacturer side of the industry to pivot and to fix things. It took this many years for them to start pumping out the good games again. But we are getting back to that. And we're getting them cross-platform and on handhelds and PC and stuff now. Like, this is hopefully the vision that Phil Spencer had some 10 years ago when he started this journey.
I feel like there's so many probably competing forces at Microsoft, where, as we've seen like in the old documentary things, there's just a lot of different pressures from the creative side then to the business side, and you've got just the best of the best when it comes to corporate America. Like, if you want to succeed at a Microsoft level, you probably have to be pretty ruthless in your career, right? And like super dialed. So the whole $80 games thing is kind of funny because there was a tweet that went out this morning I sent you. The Outer Worlds 2 game director has said that we don't set the prices for our games, end quote, as it's the first Xbox game to be $80. And then he goes on to say, I wish everybody could play my game, but for the reasons why the $80 price point, you'd have to honestly talk to the Xbox folks, end quote, from Games Radar. And it's like the $80 game choice probably isn't Phil. It's probably somebody else, right? Who's looking at this opportune moment to go, all right, Nintendo did it. Let's roll. This is time. Like, we've been waiting. We want to do this. But at the same time, too, they're starting to see some pretty epic fruits. Like, they've had a very good spring. Expedition 33, South of Midnight, the Stealth Ninja Gaiden 2 thing was pretty cool. Doom the Dark Ages, like, all it takes is another few like months of this, and I think a lot of people will start shifting back. You just want good games, and I think that's the main story. For like the lack of Halo, my take is I really don't want to hear or see anything until they've actually finished something and it's ready to go. I would much rather some stealth drop, finish your game, show it off a month before release like they did with the February showcase thing that we've been referring to.
That clearly worked so well.
Yeah, people know what Halo is. You don't need to go spend 6 months or 12 months building hype or marketing. Finish the game, cook something good this time, because if it doesn't land, I think it's super toast, right? I mean, you cannot have any more misses at this point, and I hope whatever is being cooked on is just phenomenal.
The longer you spend building marketing, the worse things can get. Like, especially with something like Halo. The more you give us, the more people are going to make their 6-hour like videos breaking down every little element and then be sorely disappointed when not a single scrap of that is in the game, like with Halo 5.
Yeah.
Like, just tell us, like you said, the game. Like, honestly, as stupid as it felt, I kind of respect that we've only been shown a title, which didn't even give us the title, just the number of the Elder Scrolls. They're like, yeah, we're making an Elder Scrolls, just so you know we're making it. We're not going to show you anything else right now. And obviously, a game way too long in development, probably. But they're not giving us these big hype building things. They're just like, yeah, the game's coming. You'll see it when it's ready. And that's fine.
What if Cyberpunk never had a release date? And they got to cook it long enough to where it was done. And they didn't do any of that crazy impressive marketing. Or they did it the day before it came out and then released it. Like, how much different are these games received if you don't build in our heads these absolutely absurd, unrealistic expectations?
Yeah.
Why would you flight marketing for 12 months for something. Why?
Yeah. And then we have instances like Battlefield where the marketing completely dictated the direction they went with the game because they just ran away with marketing first, and then the game had to match the marketing and shift.
Yeah.
And you know, the $80 price tag thing, I'm a little confused with it from Nintendo because obviously, yeah, Microsoft said, oh, look, Nintendo's doing it. We can do it. Microsoft has a baked-in strategy for this. If you don't want to pay $80,
go
you can
Game Pass
subscribe
it.
to Game Pass.
Yeah, it makes
That is a
sense.
Direct, especially with day one and especially with the shadow drops. Like, you're not going to want to pay $80 for something that just released out of nowhere, but you can try it on Game Pass a little bit first. Whereas Nintendo doesn't have that. They just hope that you pay for it.
I've seen a lot of reviews on the new Mario Kart World. In fact, IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, by the way.
Yeah.
Not because it wasn't, awesome. It's got all the same formula. Basically, it's missing some of the real quality of life benefits that like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had brought and mastered and all that jazz. But most of the commentary I've heard is a lot of people saying, was this worth the $10 extra since Nintendo has this kind of variable price skew going on, right? And everybody's trying to like suss out and be like, no, it's probably, I don't see where that extra $10 came from or why, which I think is fine as like the consumer to do. But like ultimately, like my gut is like, it has nothing to do with anything other than it's a flagship game that has high demand. So they will charge more for it. It has nothing to do with added production cost or added time put into it,
Especially since we know like it was already in development for the Switch 1. It's not like it was this big intended Switch 2 launch title. Like it was just, they already had it done and they're like, all right, pack it up for the Switch 2 and just hold on.
It is very nice to see, though, good games like Expedition 33 that probably get a lot more players trying it because of something like Game Pass. And it's nice to see some wins happening where that strategy that years ago you and I talked about in 2017, where Xbox was really starting to hint at, we're doing away with this exclusivity thing and we're basically moving to be a publisher. It's nice to see some wins come from it because I like the idea of give studios the opportunity to succeed if possible. We've just had how many years of pretty weak, stupid trend chasing, half finished junk, and maybe the new trend, since we've had enough commentary and now enough successes behind our belt of these other studios building the Baldur's Gate 3s and the Astrobot, I guess you can kind of include in there if you want to, but the Expedition 33s, etc., to where so many people now, I think, are getting the picture. Build a good creative original game, and it will do well. You don't need insane marketing. I feel like Expedition 33, outside of that presentation, that's it. That was my only exposure to it, and it's the game of the year for so many people.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
All right, well, why don't we hit the break? When we come back, Google kind of stinks now. Let's talk about it. All right, I'm going to...
Okay. Yeah.
There you go. I'm going to describe a situation that I've been noticing, Epos. A specific thing that happened the other night. I wanted to look up and see what are some of the best games on the Nintendo eShop, right? The best, like, kind of hidden gem indie style games that are on there. I know there's plenty of them. I know that Beat 'em Ups, so Wood over on the Beat 'em Ups channel has an incredible YouTube series talking about all those great eShop gems, but I wanted an article. I couldn't watch a video at that time, and I throw it into a Google search, and I get about 3 articles that are all basically what you'd expect, like Mario Kart and Tears of the Kingdom and all the big heavy hitters. I'm like, no. Like eShop specific games, the indies, right? And I refine the search. And I noticed something that I've been kind of subconsciously aware of the last 6 to 9 months, and that is the search results that Google is yielding sort of suck now. You get about 2 or 3 good ones, and then it just starts throwing weird suggested content that has nothing to do with the search itself. And I had a horrible, like, kind of eureka moment where you and I have seen this with YouTube search for about 2.5 years now. Ever since YouTube's been like, oh gosh, TikTok has a lot of users. We got to catch up. Let's kill all of our long form search tools, which are literally the best in the industry, so that we can try and prioritize some stupid short form stuff. And it has killed back catalog views for most creators. If you talk to just about any YouTuber over the last 2 years, all of their evergreen tutorial, helpful content, the edutainment stuff, all of those things that would always get over the years like nice background viewership, they just died. You can look at your analytics, see the moment that YouTube changed how they prioritize search results, and you can very easily like not even find your own videos. I've looked up videos I have made before with almost exactly the title, and it won't even show me my own videos because the search results have gotten so bad. And I wanted to talk to you about this today to find out if you have experienced similar, what you think about it. I did a little bit of research, and I have some serious thoughts because never in my life have I thought that I would use Bing, but no joke, run the same search on Bing and you're going to get the right results. So what is going on, dude?
Google took over the world by making the best web search tool ever available. And by continuing to scale their business and the money that they make and the employees that they can hire, they were able to just outpace everybody in every angle because they were the best and they made the most money by being the best. But as every major tech company seems to hit, they reached a point where they had enough laurels to sit on that their priorities shifted. And Google is now this massive conglomerate business that has more side branches than we could ever possibly know in terms of making money from phones and operating systems and web browsers and advertising and surveillance and cameras and whatever. Like, they're not just a search company anymore. For only worse, not for better or worse, only for worse. And their objectives with search have shifted drastically over the past 20 years to make money off of your searching with their web browser. And this can come through displaying advertisements in the thing, to adding a little bar of stuff you can buy from different shops that are then giving them basically commission whenever their links are clicked on. So if you search for like a grill cover, it's going to show you a big bar of places you can buy grill covers from before it shows you actual information. A million different ways they can monetize that way. But then they have this one key little problem. And that is, the sooner you find your search result, the less opportunity they have to make money.
Oh, yeah.
And so it is still hotly debated whether we can officially confirm it or not, but they have a very transparent and overriding incentive to make it take longer for you to find what you want, so that you are either more likely to spend time exposed to ads and earning them money, or spending money on ads, thus earning them money. And it really stinks because we kind of came up with technology where the best tool for the job was objectively the best tool, and we all rewarded them for it. And in turn, everyone seems to be shying away from doing the thing that they were good at, in terms of treating you like the product instead of the thing that they sold you. And it's really hard. And this has taken them many different forms at this point, from, like I said, advertising to a bajillion different ways to categorize websites, whether it's paid ranking or authority scores or raw SEO like tagging, backlinks, all these other things that could make up how your results are determined. And most recently, the new strategy is to integrate an AI language model that then basically takes the content from the websites themselves and gives it to you, often with hilarious results. I don't know if you've seen the meme about someone asking for an anniversary present, and it just lists a knife set like 20 times in a row, a set of knives and a set of knives and a set of knives and a set of knives. Or someone asks, why is it the year 2025? And it'll say, no, it's not the year 2025. It hasn't turned 2025 yet. The calendar says it is June 11th, 2025, which means it's not 2025. Just like,
wasn't there a putting glue in a pizza recipe?
Yes.
I kind of remember that one.
Lots of shenanigans and hallucinations and whatever. But that shows the core vested interest in not making the experience better for the user, and definitely not for the websites that they're keeping the users from clicking on in the first place by putting these features in there, but by allocating resources in ways that make them money. And we've already, if you haven't seen it, Alana Pierce put out a big video breaking down like where the money comes from specifically in the gaming industry and why we see even Xbox suddenly like touting these superficial AI features, because that's the only way they can get big budget investment, because gaming as a market is mature and no longer getting new investments. It's the same thing even on the scale of Google. Like if they want to rake in this free money, they have to do so by spending money on these things that don't actually make the product better for us. And that all that means is that they no longer run a business based on giving us good search results, when that is the whole reason they became their own verb in the first place.
Yeah, it hurts them, right? You're getting off the platform, so they'd rather keep you in that. It's just the stupid walled garden garbage that we talk about all the time, where everyone lives on their social media platform of choice. And I got distracted because I looked up the glue and pizza recipe, and then I found through Bing an article on Yahoo News where a reporter actually made that pizza and ate a slice. I'm watching the video of this person. It's Elmer's glue that they put in it. And I just realized, I think that is all the internet we need for today. Like that explains all of the issues. This person wrote the clickbait article. I guess it's not clickbait, it's true. They wrote the article that said Google AI told me to put glue in a pizza, so I did and I ate it. This was for what? Your $20 of CPM ad rev on it?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done with this internet, dude. Like I talked a little bit about this in a video where I love the intentionality way. And we talk about it all the time here on the show. And it's about being more intentional with your choices, your internet consumption, your gaming, to try and curate one of the best experiences you can while navigating a lot of the pitfalls of this modern world. But I'm exhausted of it, dude. It's like a continual homework assignment. And I've just sort of been floating around the last couple of months, still cautious and intentional, but I've found myself scrolling Twitter when I wake up in the morning, even though I know it's bad. I've just been so tired. I've not made the better decision to get up and go do something. Or if you are going to consume entertainment, why am I not pulling up, like mountain biking training tip video or something that has some element of benefit to it? So I bring it up because do we get to a point where the crumminess of the internet reaches a boiling point and people demand like a revolution, like a new paradigm? Like, does this ever change, or do we just keep going down this road? Because for the first time, I could actually see an LLM AI being able to take the mantle away from Google and seriously threatening their monopoly of search dominance. Not in the next year, but maybe in the next 5. If they don't get it together, I just changed the default search engine on my browser to Bing. I just did that during this conversation. And by the way, I ran the same search just now, and I found like 10 great articles about eShop hidden gems that just appeared right away. So DuckDuckGo, start page. I know there's like a ton of different ones, but anyway.
If you haven't looked for videos on Bing yet, you were in for a whole new world. They have a whole separate front end for YouTube that is actually good search, because YouTube search has completely degraded as well.
Yeah.
They have their own video search that searches YouTube and does it better than YouTube does. And then they have a whole front end that gives you like chapter markers and extra information and extra web sources you can find related to the video. All of these things that Google should be doing, Bing is doing it. So you said Google's dominance might not start happening. Well, apparently, starting in October 2024, they have actually had their global search traffic fall from whatever the 100% market, like from comparing to like past, my words are failing me. There's an article from Tuda, which is breaking down stats from StatCounter. And we are seeing the first drop below 90% search market dominance for the first time in 10 years. They are actually losing. Now, we're talking about small percentages, but in terms of the scale of the number of people who search on Google, That is an insane number of people. They're actually losing a little bit of relevance now for the first time in 10 years, which doesn't mean their days are over, but does mean that an impact is already showing and being felt. And I do think we are going to see a demand for things to change in some way. I don't know what that demand looks like. We're seeing it in a lot of weird ways. We're seeing a lot of younger people who are much younger than us explore purpose-built devices that they never really had, like PSPs and iPods and CD players.
Yeah.
We're seeing a revivifying of physical media and tangibility in a bunch of different markets separate from gaming. Like people are getting really into like handwriting letters or buying vinyl for music, or people are suddenly really into DVDs again. Like it's so confusing to go to stores where you can't buy physical video games or CDs anymore, but you can buy cassettes and vinyl. It's very disorienting as an old person now. And then there has been, obviously there's a huge market now for these cameras that emulate old point and shoot film cameras that has really come up. And then there was actually, I don't have the link on hand, but there was a recent poll of British teenage youth and teenage males specifically, and like a significant portion of them think that the internet is harmful to them now and wish they could live without it. And that is a poll. It means very little in terms of like tangible research or like results, but it is a significant public display of like disdain for this kind of thing for the first time since like it has taken off. Like you and me have been alive long enough to see this thing suddenly exist and then come to popularity and then start not existing. It's a very unique perspective to have compared to those who have grown up where it's always around or whatever. It's very fascinating to watch. I do think a lot of people, I think there will be demand for change. I think it will be slow. I think it will take a little too long. And along the way, those who are really going to adapt to it are just going to have to make, like you said, those intentional lifestyle changes that you and I have been talking about basically for the whole duration of the show.
Yep.
Like in terms of episodes, like spending time being more deliberate about where you place your energy and your time, engaging with more tangible things that bring you joy rather than just rot your brain, and taking time away from it. Like this year, I really burned out just with work and with tech and everything last year. And so I started making shifts. And like even this year, as I've gotten back into it and gotten caught back up, like I'm spending so much more time cooking and working on our house and doing yard work and gardening and writing and making art and stuff, things that aren't connected to other people on the internet to yell about or involved in algorithms that I have to game. Because as much as YouTube has been my favorite thing to do, my favorite
it's like
outlet
our home.
For half of my life at this point.
Yep.
It's not the same anymore when I have to constantly fight an algorithm just to share a cool thing I like. When I have to play a game of packaging that feels so insincere, it spoils a lot of it for me. It has been something I care about my whole life, and I can't engage with it in the same level of good faith because of these things. So I'm just finding way new forms of expression to like spend my time with.
I saw a great little video. I don't remember by who, but it essentially said that like you want to do the digital detox. You want to get away from scrolling and all the things on the internet that you don't like the social media thing. Replace it with creative work. Draw, paint, cook, learn a new skill, do a hobby, try a sport, play a game, or like make a video about a game. I think it was all about have a creative outlet. And the cold turkey thing we've talked about a bunch, where if you just cut it out altogether, it creeps back. It finds a way to come back. And so replacing it with a higher quality activity, it matters. I'm a little bittersweet right now in the sense that like in college when Machinima Respawn was popping off and this whole YouTube gaming thing, I was introduced to it. I really thought the internet was the coolest thing since sliced bread. I still think it's amazing, don't get me wrong, but that joy and optimism has pretty much deflated as we've seen the corporate strategies to monetize every little tiny corner of it. So I'm in a weird kind of like emotional space where the thing that I loved so much, I'm happier now interacting with it less than ever before. I know that was probably a lot of adjectives that didn't make sense, but the more time I spend away from the internet and discussions about games and just playing games, the happier I am. And that's not how it was from about 2007 to 2017, I want to say. And I don't think it has anything to do with my age, right? It was, let me roll the clocks back. 2004 until about 20, I'll be generous, I'll say 2017, some of the best social gaming memories of my life. Playing Halo 2 split screen multiplayer online at my friend's house during Halo 2 and Halo 3 era. Some of my favorite gaming memories of all time. And then in college, when I had the nice internet and could play Halo 3 online, it was unbelievable. Me and my roommate would play split screen Halo 3 multiplayer all the time. And then Destiny 1 from 2014 to 17.
I miss it so much.
It was incredible. It really was kind of perfect for me. You could play a few Nightfalls a week and be happy. You could do one raid a week and be happy. And it all changed. It all shifted when they really figured out how to squeeze the drip feed live service lemon so hard and kind of ruined it all. And I miss that, dude. I super miss that. And I know there are still social gaming experiences out there, and that I have aged out of, right? I'm never going to have the time anymore to play 2 or 3 hours a day on a multiplayer game. Nor will I probably ever have the desire, right? Unless the new Halo game is the sickest ever. And even then it would be maybe like an hour a day. But do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of that comes from the same reason that Google sucks now. It's all about getting the highest number of people using your thing for as long as possible instead of just making the best tool. That live service drip feed thing is all about retention. Everything is about retention. In the early days, when the internet was the coolest thing ever, it was this thing we had to reach out and access and determine what value it added to our life and then explore that value. And we got good things from it. And then when there were bad things, we could just shoo them away and go do something else. Yeah. When you were on forums or in like IM chats, if you caused problems, you were kicked out. You were booted out. You weren't welcome. On social media platforms, they need every human being on the planet that exists to be on the platform, to the extent that they are now making up fake people to fill in the slots because there aren't enough humans anymore. The retention has spun out of control that Facebook literally thinks there aren't enough people, so they have to make fake ones. Like, it is about trying to absorb every ounce of your time instead of providing you the most amount of value. And that it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different dimension of operating to exist. And so, of course, it feels wrong because the whole reason it existed in the first place is different. Like, think about if I wanted to log in and make my Haste the Broken Worlds fan site. Back in the day, if I just, made a free website and put it up there, I wasn't caring how many people were there or how long they spent on the site or what they tracking their eye movements as they watched it or whatever.
Yeah, but these days, mapping us.
Yeah. But these days, someone doing that could very much be focused on, okay, you like Haste. How can we keep you obsessed with Haste for as long as possible? We're going to use AI to generate 20 different articles about the best builds, the best ways to play, the best mods to install, performance on different platforms. Oh, by the way, we're going to have every little ounce of news every time the developer sneezes. We're going to say something so that you come back. Oh, we're going to allude to a sequel that hasn't even been announced yet for 6 months. It is a completely different energy. It feels like things are being hosted in bad faith, and that just feels off.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's these live service FPS games a lot of them are just a front for the money.
Yes.
The game is the afterthought. It's the minimum viable product for the most part, just to keep you logging in for the AUM number.
Yeah. There was a thing growing up in the culture, at least.
Or MAU. What is monthly active users? Sorry.
Yeah. In like big city culture where you would sometimes question whether certain storefronts were actually just like a front for laundering money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really wonder when we're going to start looking at video games with the same eye. Like, Are you giving us a video game, or are you just passing around $500 million between major companies over and over and pretending that you're giving us something?
I mean, this is off topic, and I have a direction I want to go with this, so we'll only go this route for a hot second. But right, didn't Warner Brothers can the finished Catwoman movie that they had shot for a tax write-off? Like
Batwoman, yeah.
Thank you. Like,
yeah, no,
that'd be the saddest thing in the world if you're one of the like actors on that. That's devastating.
Yes.
Oh my word.
When things are controlled by people not invested in the thing being made, it just doesn't function right.
And we know where this goes. It just ends with destruction. And so before I shift here, like more than ever, if there are creators that you like on YouTube, bookmark them, do the notifications, go and check out their work. Because without a doubt, I've talked to a lot of creators over the years. Epos has talked to way more. In the last 18 months, the back catalog viewership's gone. It's dead. And if you don't play the algorithm outrage clickbait game, it's pretty much impossible to compete at this point. And so if you like content that is authentic, the only way to support it right now is not waiting for it to hit your homepage, but intentionally like navigating and supporting those creators. I've talked before, curate a good subscription list. And when you go to YouTube, like if you're not on your phone, but go to the subscriptions tab, like bookmark that. And that is still like one of the best things that you can do. Because otherwise it's all just, we're going to just race to the bottom with the most outrageous, stupid takes and loudest thumbnails and dumbest content ever. It's just all rage bait, you know?
Dude, I know we're trying to shift topics. I wanted to share that I've been wanting to talk about this forever. You know, I love Pokemon games like more than anything.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with these games. They are my core thing. I may have disagreements with the new ones, but like I love Pokemon. I had the most disillusioning experience the other day. I opened up my YouTube homepage and like YouTube is very serious about the rabbit holes it gets me down. If I watch a video on a thing, it is giving me more of that thing. And often it pays off. Sometimes I get good stuff, but sometimes I start realizing when it starts kind of influencing my brain. And one of those instances was, I don't even remember the exact game, so keeping it vague is probably safest anyway. I opened it up and one of the videos was like, why X game was actually not that bad. Like why Pokemon Emerald or Black and White were not that bad. Or like why it was overrated or something. And something just clicked in my brain. It's like, it's one thing to learn about the history of these games that I didn't know, the extra facts, to see new ways to play it. But it's another one when something as pure as my childhood favorite franchise is being taken and turned into this hot debate about, is it good, is it bad? Did it live up to expectations? Blah, blah, blah. 20 years later. It's one thing when you're reviewing a game when it comes out. It's another thing when you're going to go back and be like, yeah, I played this game as a kid, but it doesn't hold up anymore because X, Y, or Z, for like a long-running franchise, because it starts making me question these things that I have no reason to switch like my stand. Like if I had fun with it, that's fine. I don't need to be debating as an adult, like whether it's still good, if I can still go back and play them and enjoy them. And something about that really, if I had the exact example, it would make more sense, but something about it really just started to irk me, because it's like, there is too much of a good thing. Getting videos about my favorite franchise is good until I start seeing all of the like niche ways people speedrun the game by like manipulating the in-game code by walking this way and like the min-max ways to play it and stuff. And it's like, it just ruins that purity of me just enjoying the game. And it's like, I don't want to watch any videos on this game anymore because it's been tainted now by like algorithm juice. Like there are so many videos out there to clickbait. And you ran into the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom. It's like, there are so many videos out there that have to, I'm not even saying the creators are bad actors. Like they have to play the game to get their video seen, that then taints your view of a thing. And it's easy to ignore it when it's a brand new game that you haven't even played, that you're like, yeah, that's the discourse of the game. That's fine. But when it's something you've already had like a 20-year stance on, you're like, what do you mean there's still a discourse about how many people hate this game and some tribalism involved? Why are you doing this to yourself?
Almost everything is framed with negativity.
Yeah.
Like it's all packaged that way. And there's no possible chance that you can just ignore it. if you want to go browse homepage, you're going to be drawn to the top 10 mistakes you're making, why you're doing this wrong, why this is the worst game ever, why, and it's always, even if the video
top 10
itself doesn't have
inconsistencies
it.
across all Final Fantasy games. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and 6.5 hour long video with like 3.2 million views. Yeah. That's what I don't get, is when they're like a 90-minute critical video essay and it has 10 million views. And I'm like, so what are you, like, are you sitting down on the couch? Is this a multiple session viewing experience? Where do you get 90 minutes to learn how garbage Tears of the Kingdom was?
And then how is someone going to say my 7-minute, like, densely packed, well-paced video is too long?
It's crap, Epos. You should have put the chapters needed to be here. That's also the super passive aggressive when a viewer like angrily writes their own chapters, right? Or time code to the one thing they cared about. It's like, okay, but okay. Before we won't stay negative too long. Okay, I promise. But this chasing infinite growth fallacy that all the tech companies have, it came to fruition, and I guess confirmation, I would say. Mark Rubin, the executive dude on X-Defiant, he put out a tweet in between our last recording and this one. And I'm sorry, what was his role? Like, he was the head guy. I'm just trying to remember. X-Defiant. He was the super lead. Director, the game director. Okay, I just wanted to get it correctly. He's always been super vocal, and I really appreciated that. He talked very openly about his thoughts on like the state of FPS and skill-based matchmaking, all those things. But basically in the post, he said, X-Defiant servers have shut down, bit of a bummer, but it was the fastest acquisition of players in the first few weeks ever for a Ubisoft game, ever. And he said that was down to the fact that the players and word of mouth spread it. They didn't have a big marketing budget. He goes on to say, but unfortunately, with little to no marketing, especially after launch, we weren't acquiring new players after the initial launch. So, i.e., they were not seeing growth. He went on to say, like, they had a bunch of tech debt, that the engine, Ubisoft's engine, wasn't really up to the par that they wanted to. He sees the industry, anytime you have in-house engines, it's not a super great investment. You need things like Unreal, all that jazz. So I brought it all up because live service FPS is doomed if the only successful metric is infinite growth. If you can only exist if you are continually bringing in new people, you're not gonna ever have 10 super successful infinite growth live shooters. There's only ever gonna be 2 or 3. You're not gonna pull a huge segment of Fortnite or Apex or COD, like for the most part. And if that's the goal and that's what they're chasing with this live service free-to-play model, I'm sorry, that space is totally, totally cooked. At least in the $60 boxed copy era, some of the risk was offset. You were able to, by giving players a campaign, a multiplayer mode, and kind of like, I think Titanfall 2 is still that golden example, you have the opportunity to not have to rely on infinite growth in order to finance your studio, who's always behind, who's always trying to build content. And let's be real, the content they're building is usually just microtransactions and maybe a map here and there. And they're chasing from the start with all of these live service games, they're chasing something that will never happen. So not only are you crunching and burning out your devs who are just making uninspired transaction content, you're chasing something that doesn't exist. And that's why I think I was so sad with the Summer Games Fest, because how many of those are live service, free to play forever games, right? They continue, they don't have to be in the FPS genre, but this is going to end badly. And it's not like this is a huge shock. We know it. But it just stinks that X-Defiant, which was a fun arcade shooter that was pretty good, I would say, like it had a decent user base. They couldn't keep the servers online. They couldn't keep it running the way that like an Iron Sight kept running for a long time. Like what? Why? And I get it. I did the research. Like if you are going to pitch a game that has to be on every platform now, which the publishers want, they need to have it on every screen possible. Now you're looking at certifications for every patch for like 4 or 5 different platforms. It is expensive. So I get why they shut down. I'm just saying this overscoped, hopeful, infinite growth model, it's never going to work. Period. I don't think you are ever going to have 7 or 8 of these FPS games existing at the same time unless something changes.
Yeah. I I definitely agree. And that stinks because I felt like for a while we could have those separate games. Like, we used to always have big player bases and old school pre-MCC Halo CE and the older Call of Duties and Quake and Unreal. And it feels like they all kind of amalgamated into the free-to-play market, and then they only exist in a couple games. And it wouldn't be so bad if these games weren't $10 million, $100 million like stakes.
Yeah.
Iron Sight got to run as long as it was because it wasn't that expensive of a game. I don't know. I'm also reading that Mark Rubin announced that he's now leaving the games industry entirely after this, and that just sucks.
Yeah, he's done.
Like,
He's burned out. I get it.
That
It's like
sucks.
Cliffy B, dude.
Yeah.
Lawbreakers was sick. That game was super fun. And we don't even need to get into it because there's just a lot, I think, to that conversation. But what do you do when you make a super rad game like that and it just totally falls apart? Now, he was polarizing, and that was part of it. And there was a lot of stuff around it. But I don't know. We don't need to hammer the point. We can move on.
I would like to talk about one of my favorite games that has come out that is a $60 package. I mean, I guess it's more expensive now, but game that's come out a few times over the past 10 years. Doom.
Yeah. I have a comment or question about that.
Yeah. You got a comment that I was fully prepared to jump into the show and argue against, and I don't think I will now.
Ooh, I'm excited. Okay. So somebody on one of my videos said, hey, why does Doom 2016 look better than the Dark Ages? Because I have been filming Doom 2016 on an OLED TV and then also on my computer monitor. So I've been playing a little 2016 on my old 1080 Ti rig. And I do kind of see what they're saying. I have thoughts on the answer, and I think it's because we are like, well, I'm going to let you answer first, then I'll share my thing.
Well, see, when I saw that, my gut reaction was just no. Like, no, it's not. No, I was like, do you mean mechanically? I guess, like, I prefer it. Sure, absolutely. I've notoriously reviewed this game, and not everyone has agreed with my takes on it, and that's fine. But I booted it up last night. I reinstalled it. I was like, all right, I'm going to go back. And immediately, by the way, other than I continued to try to sprint over and over, like I was hooked into the mechanics again. Really, really good game. I was looking at it, and I'm not sure I would argue that it looks better overall visually, but I would easily argue that the leap in visuals between 2016 and the Dark Ages is not as significant as you might think. There are some little things you can look at. Certainly some textures, certainly some of the models for like the smaller demons look a little plasticky in 2016. I've always thought that. Like they look a little, they're not gritty enough. Like the game, these newer games in general, like weirdly don't feel edgy enough sometimes, which is weird. I think Eternal did a lot better of that than both the Dark Ages and 2016. But otherwise, like they kind of look similar enough that I'm not sure it warrants, as much as I argued against them, I'm not sure it warrants the higher system requirements and the forced ray tracing and all this stuff that people are really mad about. I don't think those things are as big of a deal as they were made out to be. But I boot up Doom 2016 and I'm like, releasing today, this would be fine. It looks great. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Dark Ages has to scale some things back once they start doing the bigger levels and the more mobs on screen. Like that's the classic game development problem. The bigger your world, the more entities you have running around at the same time, the more you have to sacrifice something. And then I think we come down to the extra highlighting around enemies. Like we just had the glory kill in 2016. In the Dark Ages, you got the glory kills and you've got another slightly different form of stagger. You got enemies that go invulnerable. You got the parry window. You got a lot more of these like comic booky outlines and color shades to enemies that kind of make it feel, like I said, less gritty and less like honed in, I think.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts because you've been playing it a lot more than I have.
Okay, so I think the first one is an artistic choice. Doom the Dark Ages, a lot of it is gray outdoors in the rain. Like if you just take a look at the first few levels, that's going to be one of the biggest things. It's not brightly saturated. It's gray. You've got a ton of particles on screen with the rain. That always eats up way more performance juice than it probably is ever worth. And to be honest, I think they're... Oh, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, and if you're watching it only in videos and you haven't played it, it's going to compress a lot worse and thus actually literally look worse than the cleaner older game.
Yep, I think that is spot on. And I think the ray tracing tech, like the lighting tech itself in Doom the Dark Ages, doesn't look as impressive as some of the other ray tracing titles. Like, I don't know if, like, it's their first foray, right? With more emphasis on this. I don't want to say first foray, but like pushing it towards RTX cards only. Right.
Yeah, it's not as mature. Like something people kind of get confused is you don't just like press a button and suddenly have generic ray traced lighting. Like you still have to implement it, and you still have to develop your artistic style around the lighting. And when you're doing that for the first time with a fully ray traced system, you inevitably kind of probably end up spending less time like tuning it and making it look as stylized as your prior games when it was baked in.
Yes. Yeah, and so I think that's the thing is like the raster. Is this the right way to say it? Like 2016 is rasterized, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That they probably were very comfortable working in that environment with 2016, and you've got very well done, sophisticated rasterized style visuals there, and it looks nice. And we're in the new era of DLSS, and there's all sorts of different configurations that you can choose, from the performance to the quality, and that's going to vastly impact how the game looks. And then if you just compare artistic direction choices, 2016 looks phenomenal because stepping out of like the gray corridors onto the bright red surface of Mars is amazing. Like it's just brilliant art direction. So I think it's a combination of all that stuff. And you mentioned something really critical. We're now at the point with PC gaming, and I know Digital Foundry struggles with this. It's incredibly hard to communicate through YouTube's compression what a game looks and feels like on a great PC. I would love to see in person what Doom the Dark Ages look like on your setup, like that OLED monitor. You're on what, a 4090?
5090 now.
5090. Geez, nice, dude. I'm on a 4070 Ti on a almost 10-year-old 1440p monitor, and it looked decent, but I also know that like you can't really communicate super well through YouTube anymore what the premium PC experience feels like. You super cannot communicate to somebody what an OLED experience feels like. I can say that firsthand. Like, I would love an OLED 1440p gaming monitor. Unfortunately, looking at those prices, it's like more than a PS5, I feel like, to get a decent one. So I might be waiting a little bit longer, but I know that's an upgrade I want to make down the road. So I think artistic choice, we're in a new era of these ray tracing titles, and I think some are stumbling in some ways. And I always do appreciate the games that support both. I hope that continues. But obviously, we know there's going to turn a transition point where they're just going to be making lighting like in this new method, right? When the next generation of consoles come out, it's probably all going to be that direction, the path tracing stuff, right?
Yeah. I do want to say too, you have to consider what parts of the game you are considering. I do think the early levels of the Dark Ages
are butt ugly.
They are butt ugly. They are way too like 2008 brown and gray Gears of War era kind of colorless whatever. But I do remember like a big thing I wanted to highlight in my review is like when you step into hell in the Dark Ages, it is phenomenal looking. It is incredible. It's still not as saturated as 2016, but like the stark contrast between the earth level and the hell parts is significant. And when I loaded up Doom 2016 last night, I did jump straight into a Mars level, so it was a little skewed there. But I do think it just like they just chose a really weak art style for Earth because they were trying to go for this medieval fantasy thing, whereas I think a lot of their art direction in Hell was kind of cool. I think a lot of it was still limited by scale, but I think a lot of it was pretty cool. And you mentioned like DLSS and stuff. I am wondering, and I do not have the patience to be like Digital Foundry and line up the side-by-sides and whatever, but I do wonder if the DLSS effect, because I absolutely played with that on, like on any game that has it on, I pretty much always do, because it, for the most part, at best you don't notice it, or at worst you don't notice it, and at best it can make some games look better. But the way it makes them look better is by cleaning up certain elements like jaggies and artifacts. And I'm almost wondering if it made the Dark Ages look a little too clean. Whereas with 2016, I was not running with that. And so I'm wondering if there's some weird side effects there, because it kind of cleans things up. Like with ray tracing, there's this thing called denoising, where you have to like literally, just like if you had too much noise on a normal video frame, you have to take a lot of that out to make the image usable. So you end up with this kind of like cleaned up look. And I think that plus DLSS, like I'm wondering if there's just like some side effects to that whole engine there that need reworked a little bit. But I do want to say, Doom is a game that runs on a fully custom engine. This is id Tech 8. Like, I think it's ridiculous that they make this entire engine and maintain it only for the Doom franchise.
Yeah, for real.
I really think Halo should be running in id Tech
Halo
at this
Studios,
point.
come on.
Like, screw Unreal, screw making their own thing. Like, they should be partnering with id here. And like, after playing the Dark Ages, there's no doubt in my mind a Halo game would be phenomenal in this engine. So I want to applaud them in some degrees, because they have made an amazing engine and maintained it this long. And I don't want them to flip to Unreal like everyone else is doing. Not that it's inherently a bad thing, but I like a little bit of diversity. But yeah. Speaking of OLED, because this is the first time I've booted up Doom 2016 on OLED. You built an entire PC to play games on OLED now.
Kind of, sort of. So when I upgraded the first PC that I ever built, I built a PC in 2016. It had an i7 7700K. At the time, it had a 1080, but eventually it got a 1080 Ti in there. It hit the brick wall last year. Okay, I had been talking with you. There's just too many titles when I was playing FPS games that needed the benefit. I was CPU choked on most games, so upgraded the main rig to a 4070 Ti and a 7800X 3D. And it's been great. It's been super fun. But I have essentially had an old motherboard, RAM, and a CPU and a card that have not really been going to much use. And so I looked on the used market, and I had this thought. I really have been daydreaming a lot about a Steam Deck or a Switch 2. Now, my Switch 2 enthusiasm drifted out the window pretty quickly with their pricing strategies and a lot of the stuff that we've learned the last few months. Doesn't mean I'll never want one. Like, of course, I told you, I will will probably be super weak when a great like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom 360 sequel, whatever, comes out. But I had to kind of stop myself and be like, I am so focused and daydreaming about tech that I don't have, instead of realizing what I've got in the closet just available right here. And so, yeah, if you look on eBay, you can build for about $250 to $400 a pretty decent TV gaming rig. And so I took the old 7700K and my old Z170 board, the 1080 Ti, and I got it all set up as a TV Steam workstation. And it's been super fun to play it on the OLED, and it accomplished a few goals. It's not a recommendation. Like if you're wanting to do this yourself, there's much better ways to do it. Save up more, get some more modern hardware that's a bit more future-proof. This is not a recommendation for anybody to do this, but more and more, we talked about on the last show, I am appreciating Steam and GOG and PC libraries a lot more. I think the value is amazing. I love that you can play it on any system that you have. You don't have to pay Nintendo your $10 or $20 for an upgrade patch just to use the horsepower that you already paid for on the console. So I'm trying to buy most of my games on PC. So this lets me experience it on the couch. I don't like playing on a desk. It's tiresome. You know, we work at desks all day long. It's nice to be away from the desk. And it's an emulation monster. DuckStation and PCSX2 and Dolphin. Like, you can play basically everything that you would want. I don't think it would do RPSX3 or whatever very well, but it's also a media hub. I've got a bunch of old physical DVDs for bike and snowboard films that I never watch anymore because I'm just not throwing a disc into the PlayStation, right? So I'm ripping my physical media to this thing, and playing Celeste for the 15th time on the TV is pretty darn incredible. And I love it. The last box it ticks off for me is, I mentioned how much I enjoyed the PlayStation 5 experience this Christmas. A lot of that was Astrobot. I can see it now.
Yeah.
Astrobot is the experience of that console, and it was incredible. But for the heavy-hitting modern stuff that this old 10-year-old PC can't really run, I can play a console out there, and I can run it through the capture card in the machine, capture footage for dual comms or the channel, all while enjoying the couch. And get this, the headset, the PlayStation 5 Pulse Elite whatever headset, works on the PC super easy. You don't get the 3D audio. The Tempest thing is specific to PlayStation 5, but you get nice stereo audio, about a $30 mouse keyboard trackpad combo on Amazon, and Microsoft's little wireless dongle for their controller. Like, I've had an Xbox pad for years and years, and dude, it's amazing. I'm telling you what, it was really nice to take a second to stop being jealous about stuff I don't have, to falling into the stupid FOMO trap that our content and tech world is so good at, and go, I have had amazing hardware here the whole time. And I've got a video talking about all the games, but get this, Expedition 33 runs at 1440p 30 FPS on that rig. And I could not believe it. That game makes my modern system scream.
Right.
And so it was a huge reminder, if you're okay with 1080p and 1440p gaming for some demanding titles, it's amazing. But like Doom 2016 holds 60 to 90 FPS at 4K on that rig. So yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, that's so cool, dude.
It's interesting because we both kind of went on this, like, yeah, we're going to go all in on PS5 this year journey. And at completely different like time scales, we've both kind of fallen back to PC from that. So it's been interesting to watch that on you, because I was very much the same way. And annoyingly, the game that broke that for me was Helldivers.
Yeah.
One of the first games I picked up this year. I was so excited. I had a bunch of others, and I'm still going to play them there. Like, I have Ghost of Tsushima. I haven't picked up Elden Ring on there. Obviously, if I get Night Rain, I'm moving to PC. But like, I picked up a bunch of games and was committed, and I'm still going to play those there. But Helldivers, it is like a completely different game on PC versus PS5. The game engine is just so heavy, and they don't have the tech to scale it up, that it runs like doo-doo on the PS5. It looks blurry and pixely and dithery. Like, it looks horrible. It is not a great experience. And even though I felt like, weirdly, I feel really rusty when I play shooters on Xbox controllers, but on PlayStation, I've never really had a big issue. And I felt like I was playing fine. But after switching to PC, I have noticed that like I'm able to be more responsive significantly quicker on a mouse and keyboard than a controller. And so that was the game where I specifically bought the Sony game for the Sony console and was like, this is the way to play it, and was immediately like, I regret this decision. And so I have since picked it back up on Steam and been playing it there for some game nights with some buds, and it's been a much better experience. I am fascinated by this journey of yours, because I don't know if you remember last summer, I had a big falling out with Xbox, screwing up my kid's ability to play Minecraft, and I built him a little computer with a little Intel NUC that we had with a freaking 3080 in it. And all it does is play Minecraft on our 4K OLED. Yeah. And so I've been really questioning, like, I've already installed like a terabyte of games from Steam. I'm like, I really need to just start playing stuff here on the couch so I can get the best of both worlds very soon. But my wife and I have been playing Horizon at the moment on the PS4 Pro, so I got to get through that first.
They all have their use cases, but I will say I'm such a huge believer in the fact that, like, as long as Steam stays in good hands, I would much rather buy in this ecosystem. I just feel like it's under more control. There's more versatility. There's customization. There's all sorts of stuff. So let me mention a few of the games here that I've been playing, because they're way more fun to sit back and play on a couch rather than to play at a desk. So Shovel Knight, Stardew Valley, Middle-earth Shadow of War, Arrow GPX, Mini Shoot Adventures, Vampire Survivors, No Man's Sky, Bayonetta, Half-Life 2, which plays like doo-doo on a controller. So I take that back. I've never played it in my life on a controller, and I tried it, and I was like, well, I will never do this. If it's the only way to play, it's still a great game, but I will say I didn't love it. GTA 5, which is a game I don't really play, and I haven't played in 10 years, but I had it in PC, so I installed the enhanced edition. Runs at 60 FPS, 4K, max settings, no issue. You don't get any ray trace stuff, but there was something really fun about getting a fast car and driving around and literally finding landmarks that I know exist in LA that I've been to. Like there's this super cool chili dog place called Carney's, and it's like in a railway car, and they've got it modeled in the game. And so driving there was like, oh my gosh, cool. It was so cool. Celeste and oh my gosh, Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 does not get enough credit for still being one of the best looking, feeling, enjoyable looter shooters ever. And it's one of those games that every Steam sale is just a few bucks. Cuphead and Vanquish and Mirror's Edge and Haste. So it is kind of my Steam Deck. That's the best way I can describe it, is for a lot of the lightweight indie titles, I know this rig is going to be fine to run most of this stuff forever. And I'm not going to sit on a computer and play Stardew Valley. I'm just not. It's like, I will not sit at a desk and do that. But on the couch, it was kind of great. And so it's got me looking back over my entire Steam library again, going, oh, I like this. But the theme of it all, of what I'm trying to say, is what do you already have that you're not utilizing? How can you repurpose it? How can you put it in a different spot or change it? Because it's pretty silly that you can go on to eBay and get most of this PC built for like $300. It does suck because the 1080 Ti has such a following that there's people still charging $200 for this GPU on eBay. So you really you would have to know what you're doing to get it at that price. That's my favorite, is all the commenters, actually people who are like, you can't build that for that price. And I like break it down and I show them the prices, because I literally have been looking on eBay for weeks at this stuff. And like, well, you didn't include the Xbox controller and the mouse and keyboard or the monitor. And it's just like, all right, fine. You're right. I forgot to include the electric bill, all that stuff.
Are you really gaming entirely from scratch? Are you watching this video having never owned anything that can play a video game? Yeah.
What? You should be playing Diablo Immortal. You have a phone, don't you?
But yeah, I mean, that's why we get so excited about handhelds and fancy TVs to game on and stuff, is because when you can change the way that you play just a little bit to make it more comfortable, you can appreciate the stuff you've already had and just been ignoring significantly better. I think that's a good lesson.
Well, think about Steam Next Fest. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. How sick is that on an OLED screen? I'm going to play it there. And of course, you can buy... Look, if you own a console, you can do the same thing I am talking about. Go out and think about what games would be the most fun to play on a couch, right? You got your PS5, play where you want. The point is to like stop continually spending money on stuff if you're not getting use out of the things that you already own.
Yeah.
I hate it, dude. The bike space, the mountain bike space, is the worst. Every single year, the marketing comes out with like a new frame design, and they're ruthless. It's always like, this is the greatest technology and you need it. And if you don't have it, you are missing out and you're going to ride so slow and bad. And everybody falls for it, dude. Like, it's insane.
Even just trying to get my PSP like updated and on the custom firmware, all the videos have like the custom shells and the custom lighting and stuff. And I'm like, man, should I want this? Do I want this? I need to buy this. And I'm like, no, I haven't even played the thing yet. Again, I'm not buying upgrades for it.
Yeah. That's wild, man. Well, this was a fun show. I really appreciate this. This was a good
to be back.
2-hour one. It's so good to be back. Everyone, the next show will be pretty close to the Steam summer sale. So actually, we might even just do it during the Steam summer sale, so we come in with a mega wish list. But if there's any games we should check out before then, let us know down in the comments. If you have any topic ideas or comments for us that you want to hear on the show, we'd love to take a look at them. Not saying we'll read all of them, but it would be fun if there's any questions that you have for Epos or I. Super appreciate the support on this. It's been the most fun thing to get to produce ever, so super thankful for it. Epos, where can people find and follow and support your content?
Epos Vox for tech stuff pretty much everywhere. Lost Saves on YouTube for gaming goodness. And then I just launched a cooking blog and YouTube channel for that called neurospicy.cooking.
Very exciting. I'm pretty pumped, man. I saw that short, so I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah. Got a new smoker in yesterday, so got a video up on that. It is amazing.
Oh, dude. What's your favorite thing to smoke?
My favorite thing that I would eat like more regularly is probably brisket. My dad does a really good one. But my favorite thing in terms of impact has been I made homemade bacon with pork belly. And like,
my God,
it was amazing to eat on its own with breakfast food. It was amazing to eat on a sandwich. I just made a carbonara with it, and it is the best carbonara I've ever had. Like, it is, this thing has paid off in dividends, and we still have a ton left over. So like,
that's amazing.
So stoked. I'm doing a turkey for Thanksgiving this year on it.
Oh, that'll be delicious. Oh, yes. All right. Well, enjoy. Be safe. Don't light anything on fire.
Don't smoke anything else.
Yeah. Hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you again very soon.
Bye.